Welcome back to Scarlet and Maize. I'm Adam.
I'm Zach.
What's up? So we are going to start off with the funnier of the two games, probably. I don't know, maybe not. Ohio State 38, Michigan State 3. Zach, what do you got?
Um, so Marv is the best player in the country, and it's not close. That being said, the first touchdown he caught was an absolute dime from McCord. Like, he put that ball on the money, and I think McCord continuing to look better every week is extremely important to Ohio State's natty chances. And I think he is, at this point, already every bit of good that he needs to be for the Buckeyes to win the natty. And the defense continues to be one of the best in the country. But, I mean, I don't got much more to say about this game. Michigan State's Michigan State. It wasn't close. It wasn't expected to be. But, yeah. Good win.
I mean, I don't have any real thoughts. Ohio State dominated. The only thing that stuck out to me, only two things, is Ohio State only had one drive over 60 yards in the second half. And then they only mustered 3 second half points.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, it was such an unimpressive win that they dropped in the polls, but
yeah, like what? There's been four teams in the history of the poll that have dropped from number one when they didn't lose, and three of them are Ohio State. Three of the four.
I wonder how many of those did they drop because there was an SEC team that got bumped up.
The one was twice in 2019 was LSU jumping Ohio State. Then I bet the other one has to be Ohio State jumped LSU back. The one that's not Ohio State of the four. But then the other one, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that could be. Michigan 24, Penn State 15. So Sharon Moore, first year solo offensive coordinator, found out hours before the game that he'd be coaching in a top 10 matchup on the road in arguably the craziest road environment in the nation, and outcoached James Franklin and came away with the win. In the last 2 years against Penn State, Michigan has run the ball 101 times for 645 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's freaking crazy, especially considering how good Penn State's defense has been, whether they're like the best defense in the country or just one of whatever, even if they're top 10, top 15. To run the ball 101 times in 2 games, 645 yards, 7 touchdowns is pretty nuts. In a game you don't think that Penn State will be able to score, which I don't think Michigan did, and you have the ability to drain the clock and move the ball, why even risk shortening the game with incomplete passes or turnovers, be it a strip sack or a pick or whatever? Not that JJ has thrown any picks, but I mean, he's thrown 3 in one game, but whatever. I wished during the game that Michigan would pass it a little bit more, but honestly, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, what's the point? Just to prove that you can. McCarthy was 7 for 8 with a QBR and 96.2. By the way, Kyle McCord's QBR against Michigan State on Saturday was 98.1, and he put up some big numbers. McCarthy obviously didn't 7 for 8, like 80 yards or whatever. But this wasn't about JJ McCarthy as much as it was being able to give Penn State your own signals and still cram it down their fucking throats and win. What's funny is one of Pete Thamel's bullshit articles said, even knowing if it's a run or pass is a huge advantage for the defense. Well, guess what, jackass? Michigan essentially held up a sign from halfway through the second quarter on that just said run play, and Penn State still gave up nearly 100 more rushing yards to Michigan than anyone else they've played this season. Michigan ran for 231 yards at 5.25 yards per carry. The only other team to get over 100 yards against Penn State was West Virginia, who only had 6 fewer carries, but 85 fewer yards at 3.7 yards per carry. So, like, was this about JJ McCarthy and the coach's lack of trust in him, or him not performing well? Or was it about the fact that Penn State couldn't move the ball and Michigan's lead was safe, barring something catastrophic, and they just wanted to run the clock because that was a strategy that they could employ to win the game? So Michigan played it safe. They won the game on the road without their head coach by more than Ohio State did at home. by the way. Michigan went up 14-9 at half, opened the second half by forcing a fumble, kicking a field goal to go up by 8. And honestly, at that point, I was like, I feel pretty good. Just the way Michigan's defense is playing, like Penn State maybe will score. I also thought that Michigan would be able to score if they needed to again. But so from that point on, once Michigan went up 8, Penn State's offense was able to do this. Here's their drives following: 6 plays, 21 yards, 3 plays, -3 yards, 3 plays, 1 yard, 4 plays, 4 yards. And then Michigan scored to go up 15 with 4 minutes left and basically played prevent, and Penn State scored. Their biggest gain on that drive that they scored on was pass interference. So like their offense still wasn't even getting chunk plays, whatever. Like I said, JJ McCarthy was 7 for 8. Last week he threw it 37 times for 335 yards against a team that at least previously had Michigan's literal actual play calls. So earlier in the year, when we're talking about the Notre Dame Ohio State game, you said you were more concerned about Ohio State preventing a comeback than mounting a comeback because they weren't having any success running the ball. Obviously they have recently, but this is what it looks like when you can run the ball this well. If Notre Dame was able to run the ball this well against Ohio State, if they were able to keep running the ball, they maybe win that game instead of throwing a screen pass and whatever. I loved it on 3rd and 5 to close out the game. 3rd and 5, Michigan lined up with all offensive linemen, a couple of tight ends, Blake Corum and JJ McCarthy, and they got like 8 yards on a run up the middle. Some coaches get emotional after a big win about how much they love their team and their head coach that's getting unjustly railroaded by the conference after someone hired a private investigator and found surprisingly minor things that Michigan State of all teams is beefing up into think of the children bull that the dip in charge of the Big Ten fell for, before giving all the credit to the players, and some demand the whereabouts of a frail 86-year-old man with a speech impediment. Michigan has yet to allow a goal to go touchdown the season or even a single point in the third quarter. Still, Michigan has not trailed or even been tied in the second half of any of their 10 games so far this season. Feeling pretty good. I know you're not impressed with JJ McCarthy going 7 for 8. However, I'm feeling pretty good about him. What are your thoughts on this game?
So I like my thing with McCarthy being 7 for 8 isn't necessarily like a lack of trust. Like I think it's if he was Joey B, if he was Joe Burrow, they would throw the ball more than 8 times. You know what I mean? If he was like legit, like really good, but when you're a mid quarterback, you're gonna throw the ball 8 times. You're gonna throw the ball 0 times in the second half. But I get that. Like it was still a dominant win, and like Michigan took advantage of what they were good at and what Penn State couldn't stop. Like it's a good win and it's a good game plan. But like even if you have Joe Burrow, you're not going to throw the ball 0 times in the second half. Even if it's Kyle McCord, they're not going to throw the ball 0 times in the second half. Kyle McCord's better than JJ McCarthy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree, but also like we can say, oh, if you have Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow didn't play for Jim Harbaugh. Like 2021 against Ohio State, I don't remember if it was 0 times or 2 times or whatever in the second half, but Michigan also didn't run in that one. And I mean, they had Cade McNamara. But my
Ohio
point,
State also has a way different defense.
yeah, I'm just saying with Jim Harbaugh, which he obviously wasn't there, it was still his offense, and Sharon Moore was like embodying that offense. Like with Jim Harbaugh as the coach, I don't think you can say, oh, if you have this other quarterback, you definitely would have thrown it more. I don't think Jim Harbaugh cares about that stuff. And I think it's a credit to JJ McCarthy, who previously at least has been mentioned in the Heisman race, going, I don't care. Like, you want me to hand the ball off most of the game, but especially the entire second half. I want to win the game. And he's willing to set aside his stats, set aside his Heisman hopes, probably altogether.
what is he supposed to express frustration to the media? Like, I don't know. That just seems like even if I was frustrated, I wouldn't say anything to the media about it.
He's said stuff previously about I don't care if I throw the ball 10 times or 40 times, I just want to win the game. Like someone
Yeah,
asked him about the Heisman, and he was like, I don't care about the Heisman. I'm here to try to win the national title.
but that's what you're supposed to say.
I understand. Some people I don't think would be okay with it. Like I mean, like Joey Burrow, I don't think would be okay handing the ball off 38 straight times or whatever it was.
He might be, but I just don't think you would with Joe B.
Well, it depends who the coach is. But I mean, we're going in circles now.
Well, and like going back to your point about Cade, but Cade, is Cade near as good as McCarthy?
No,
I think he is.
I I mean, it's funny, but like
He hasn't done any
JJ JJ McCarthy does not have Marvin Harrison Jr. Look at the stats between McCord and JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, but that's
I don't
it
get how you
doesn't
say McCord is elite and JJ is mid when
the
one of them
stats
has one of the greatest receivers maybe of all time and still has, you know, it's not like he's putting up Joe Burrow numbers.
look, you got to remember, JJ has a whole year under his belt where he's been mid. McCord has progressed over the year and gotten better. His stats were worse than JJ's for most of the season. He's now past JJ in almost every category. So I don't know what your point is about compare the stats. Like the stats just could like the stats
I
just
would
continue
argue
to
that
like
last year JJ was not mid all year. He was a game manager all year in a very run heavy offense. But like he made some plays when he needed to make some plays. This year, he's had some games like last week where he's thrown the ball a lot. I don't know. I mean, we'll see in a couple of weeks.
yeah.
I don't think Michigan's going to run the ball that many times in a row unless they look at the Rutgers game plan and see how successful they were running the ball and then think, oh, we could just run the whole time against Ohio State again. And then maybe
Yeah.
or Ohio State will say, let's see just how mid JJ McCarthy is. Let's make him throw.
What
And then JJ McCarthy throws for a few touchdowns and wins the game. Like
what was
last week.
Rutgers' success in the run game? Where did
When
they
that
get that?
guy averaged like 5 yards a carry or whatever.
Dude, I don't even know like what like it didn't get him anywhere. They got blown out.
Well, yeah, I mean, they turned the ball over a few times because their quarterback sucked. But JJ doesn't turn the ball over really. So
Really, but when he played a team from Ohio, he threw 3 picks. So
there it is right there. All right, Harbaugh versus the Big Ten. We got to talk about this. I'm going to go first, and then I will let you go. I will try not to interrupt you with whatever. This was going to be my tweet of the week until we officially added this segment. But a Michigan reporter for 24/7 Sports, Alejandro Zuniga, posted a video of Sharon Moore post-game with the caption, Sharon Moore is out here crying, dropping F-bombs, and winning football games. Michigan Regent Jordan Acker quote retweeted it and said, class is sometimes letting your emotions get the best of you and you are so proud of your young men. P.S. Class sometimes requires hard lessons. When a team is going to lose its coach 20 hours before kickoff, class requires you to call the school leadership instead of leaking it to Pete Thamel. So this was complete horse. And I'm not talking about a potential punishment for Harbaugh in Michigan, but the precedent this is setting, the protocols this is breaking, and the way this bitch of a Big Ten commissioner handled the entire thing is what's bull. To take it to the very last minute to intentionally make it more difficult for Michigan to contest, to not even tell the team directly, but have them find out via Pete Thamel and not call Michigan until 30 minutes after Pete Thamel tweeted out an article about it is complete garbage. Like Jim Harbaugh said a couple of days ago that first of all, the news broke when they were on the plane. Everybody knew when they were going to take off to go to Maryland. But so or not Maryland, Penn State, when they're walking off of the plane, someone taps Jim Harbaugh on the shoulder, shows him their phone, and he sees the article written by Pete Thamel. He doesn't even hear from the Big Ten. It was like 20 minutes after that article was posted that the Big Ten emailed Michigan leadership. That's just garbage. The Big Ten, in their statement, quoted Michigan State Athletic Director Alan Haller and said that sign stealing is a player safety issue, which is bull. But despite that, sign stealing is not prohibited by the rules. Therefore, if sign stealing is a player safety issue, and if sign stealing is not prohibited by the rules of the Big Ten, then the Big Ten does not think it's worth correcting to keep players from getting injured, despite cheap and easy solutions that the NFL has been utilizing for 30 years. So speaking of Alan Haller weeping and wailing for the health and safety of the children, only one school in the Big Ten had players charged with aggravated assault in the stadium after ganging up and beating up two players from the opposing team last season, and then another one ejected and suspended by the league, not by the school, for diving headfirst into the back of the player, back of the head of a opposing player who was laying face first on the ground. So save me your bullshit, Alan Haller. You can go eat. I appreciate Michigan President Santa Ono, who said, "We look forward to presenting our case next week, where we intend to demonstrate that the Big Ten has not acted legally or fairly." That is now this week. It's in a couple of days. The commissioner created this situation by issuing this indefensible position at the end of the day on Veterans Day when the court is closed. So it's not about the rule that was broken. It's not even about if other schools are doing the exact same thing or something similar or something potentially worse. This is about, is this worth setting a precedent and breaking protocols? I mean, I would say no, but there's no NCAA notice of allegations. There's some evidence against Michigan, but Michigan has not been allowed to respond to it. So completely based off of accusations stemming from a private investigator paid for by a rival school, Ohio State or not, with some evidence that the accused school is not allowed to comment on, you can now go outside of the process, use a rule that doesn't apply to overextend and suspend a coach for the remainder of the regular season, including 2 top 10 matchups. That's bullshit. Why would every single school not start hiring private eyes to start following around other schools to try to catch them breaking a rule, even if it's a rule that doesn't even exist because it creates a competitive advantage? Like this one is illegal because of the financial advantage or the financial disparity among schools. Not every school can afford to send people to games, whatever. This is my frustration with just the Big Ten, though, not even the NCAA. I hate the NCAA. I'm sitting in front of my 2 Fab Five Final Four banners on purpose right now. But in 2010, the NCAA allowed Ohio State to delay the suspension of 5 players, including their starting quarterback, until the start of the next season, as long as they pinky swore not to go pro, which they did end up going pro because, I mean, why would you not? Why would you be suspended when you can go make money? Bill Self has essentially been unpunished by the NCAA despite a multi-year investigation and proof he committed recruiting violations. And he just last week became the highest paid college basketball coach of all time. Have Nick Saban and Kirby Smart ever been under investigation despite multiple players from both schools saying they were paid when it wasn't legal? No. Has Clemson ever been under investigation when players have said that they were paid when it wasn't legal? No. Louisville basketball still has banners up for the 2013 basketball national title when the NCAA vacated it and ordered those things to be taken down. That seems weird. Has Texas A&M been investigated despite reports of a $30 million recruiting class when pay for play is illegal? No, they have not. Michigan State was not even investigated when a former staffer told the press that Mark D'Antonio ordered him and others to illegally obtain opponents' practice footage. That's crazy. It's pretty crazy that due process, that's what I'm mad about. I'm not mad about the rules. Punish Jim Harbaugh, punish Michigan after due process. But due process is being fought against by people with nothing to lose and everything to gain by Michigan being penalized right now. And it seems like the Big Ten is winning, at least until Saturday when Michigan beat Penn State anyways. They're not fighting for fairness anymore, if it was ever even about that, because the investigations are supposed to be about that, determine what actually happened, determine what rules were being broken, what penalties should apply. But rival schools are now fighting against fair trial and due process. And that's bullshit. And that's what's frustrating. Then there was the report last week from the Associated Press that multiple Big Ten programs were conspiring against Michigan by sharing signs and whatnot in an effort to take down Michigan on the field. It makes sense then why those same teams would bitch and moan and try to get Michigan unjustly punished without even being able to comment on it, without any investigation being completed. So God bless Santa Ono, the NCAA, the Big Ten forever and ever. Amen. Rant over. Zach, what do you think about all this?
I'm just glad I'm not the Big Ten commissioner, because I think it's a really tough spot to be in. It feels like something should be done, and it seems like something should be done now, even at times. But I also really wish that Jim Harbaugh was at least coaching in the Ohio State game. Like, if they're going to suspend him now. But I also think I agree with you with the due process. Like, if this was happening to my team, I would want the due process before my coach gets suspended. But you mentioned that, like, the reason that they have the rule was for financial reasons, but it's for financial reasons so that it's a level playing field. Like, the lower schools might not be able to afford to do the same level of in-person scouting, recruiting, like in-person scouting of other teams at the same level, and that's why they were like, nah, we can't just do it, because the teams with less money would be at a disadvantage. So it would be a competitive advantage if because of the finances, and it is now just a straight up advantage because no one else is allowed to do it. So I disagree with where it's like a minimal advantage on the field. Like, I do think that it affects the play on the field for sure. If they knew the plays, like, there's zero chance that it does not affect the on the field stuff. And, like, who knows how much it would have affected it, because Michigan was a good team in general before that. Like, it wouldn't be a shock if they would have made a stop anyway without knowing the play most of the time. But that's the thing, is you'd never know. And so, but yeah, that's all I really have to say about it. I don't think Jim Harbaugh should be suspended right now. I do think, like, there will be punishments coming, and it should be coming long term down the road. But, like, especially since, like, it's not like those, like, who knows who, like, there's obviously no evidence that Harbaugh knew, as so far, at least right now. But who, like, obviously you're gonna stake the claim, oh, Harbaugh didn't know for sure. But if there's no evidence, that doesn't mean he didn't know. And I'm not saying that he didn't know, but I have no idea what I was gonna say. I was gonna say something, but I don't remember now.
That's I mean, but so that's part of my argument is, like, as of right now, the NCAA told the Big Ten, we don't have any evidence that Harbaugh knew. Today it came out that Connor Stalions did. There were rumors going around that maybe Jay Harbaugh or a different coach paid for the stuff, because there's no way Connor Stalions could afford to pay for all this stuff. Turns out he was paying for all this stuff, which gives credence to the lone wolf thing, which
I don't think them saying that he had there's no records of it. There's no, like, that doesn't mean that he paid for it. It doesn't mean somebody didn't give him money to pay for stuff.
That's fine. But if they were going to go
books.
so far as to cover the tracks of the money, wouldn't he have bought tickets under a different name? You know, like, it doesn't add up for it to be like both a Michigan thing with this huge cover-up conspiracy, whatever, and the sloppiness that went into this. Like, buying tickets in your own name. But he had a file labeled how to steal signs that he gave to every single person that he paid to go to the games with their iPhone.
But so
it's silly.
How did he get on the Central Michigan sideline then?
That
there had to have been.
Sorry, that one is still being investigated, and some people think that Central Michigan, because Connor Stalions had already tried to steal signs from Michigan State, that someone from Central invited him there to try to steal their signs during the game to help Central against Michigan State.
What? That doesn't even make sense.
Why? If he has Michigan State signals and he's on Central sidelines, Like if he was just there to scout Michigan State, why wouldn't he have just bought a ticket like every other time?
Well, so I don't know, but they're like he's wearing like we don't know for sure if it's him or not yet, obviously, but
I mean,
everyone
it's
assumes
probably
it's
him.
him. Everyone, yeah, that's where everyone's at. It's probably him. He's wearing glasses that are very clearly recording what's going
Yeah.
on. He's wearing sunglasses at a night game, so like whether he's helping Central or not, he's there still doing his scouting thing. And he also isn't holding anything. He's not standing next to people calling plays. He's standing in the back, and when the play comes to his sideline, he ducks. That was the craziest
Yeah.
thing is he's just going like this in that
I mean,
clip.
and
That's crazy.
this goes to what I've been saying for a few weeks that he was a psycho. So maybe he wasn't there on Central's behalf. Also, if he was there on Central's behalf, but he had a sheet and he was standing next to the coach, that would raise way more flags than if he's not standing right next to the coach, if he's trying to recall
Oh,
whatever.
I remember what I was gonna say earlier.
Go ahead.
So, like whether Harbaugh knew or not, and all the coaching staff knew or not, I really doubt that. Like, and this, like college football, college sports is really it's about entertainment, but it's like really deep down about the players, right? Like the players, like I'm sure were not involved in that, and maybe a few players were, but I'm sure a whole roster wasn't involved in that. That would be dumb because it would be way easier to lead. It would be way harder to keep under wraps if
Yeah.
coaches and stuff knew. So like I think the players are being unjustly punished right now, especially without like if the punishment is great enough, I think that the players deserve like a chance where like the portal opens up, like when coaches get fired and stuff.
Well, I mean, I don't think he's getting fired. I think they're still
No, I'm
uh,
saying if like who knows, maybe more evidence will come out. Maybe
yeah.
they could prove that Harbaugh knew. You think he doesn't know? I'm not sure.
So
Maybe Harbaugh knew and they find evidence that he knew and he gets fired. They're obviously going to bounce. Or if he gets suspended for half a season or they get a bowl ban, I think the players should get a chance to bounce.
okay, that's fine. Here's my thing is what is alleged is a level 2 accusation. Like level 1 is the worst. Level 1 is the stuff that Bill Self got off the hook for scot free, but whatever. Um so it's not like they got caught red-handed paying players. It's not a huge offense according to the rule book, but this is part of why like um a due process, a full investigation is so important because, like, especially right now, the NCAA has the
What
clause,
level
new clause where it doesn't matter if Jim Harbaugh knew, he's responsible. The Big Ten does not have that. So that's if the Big Ten had that, that might change things for suspending him right now, but they don't have that rule and they're still trying to apply that rule.
what level offense was the cheeseburger scandal?
Two, they said
Okay.
lying to investigators is level 1, but that's more like what we haven't gotten full reports on what that was. What I have read as a Michigan fan is that he was like, "No, I don't remember that. No, I don't. I don't recall."
Mm. Oh, okay.
There were just a couple of things that you said that I wanted to respond to, though. One is you said, well, it is an advantage because some schools have money and some don't. And so there's a rule. The rule, they thought about repealing the rule because it said, the NCAA said, well, there's a minimal advantage to it, whatever. So, like, even if you do it, it's a minimal advantage. But financially, it's not like we should try to keep it a level playing field, whatever. But then since Connor Stallions has been fired, Michigan's played 3 games. 2 of them they beat the spread. In the third one, there was a touchdown with 18 seconds left, so that Michigan didn't beat the spread.
Like they said they said it's a minimal advantage. It's an advantage. You know what I mean? That's all I gotta say about it. Like,
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, like, and
so what's I don't
you
get
may be
I don't
joking, you may be exaggerating, but being like, oh, asterisk on everything. We need to erase wins and whatever, vacate wins. Like it's a minimal advantage. And I don't think
It's an
Michigan's the
advantage.
only school that does this thing. I think they're the only school that so far has gotten caught. And I wouldn't be surprised if more schools, it comes out, have done the same thing. I also think it's, if the Associated Press report is true that two schools were conspiring against Michigan, which you're not supposed to do, that turns into advanced scouting. I would rather have a coach's signals who actually played against it than some random person in the stands with an iPhone 20 rows up or whatever, kind of pointing at the sideline.
I would way rather have the film that I can watch over and over and over and over again than just watching it once.
Well, it's not just watching it once though. It's gaining information from the coaches who were there with the signals. You know what I mean? It's gaining insight.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Uh,
I feel like you're trying to say that like I think whether it was Stallions acted alone or not, like this tarnishes the last 3 seasons of Michigan, like at least a little bit.
I
Like whether
disagree.
they vacate wins or not, like that'll always be like, oh, that's when they were had the sign stealing guy, like those years. Like
I
it'll be
think
that
that
way.
I think that that's what people will say who cheer for Ohio State, no offense, Michigan State, people like Paul Feinbaum who have always hated Jim Harbaugh, always talk trash about Michigan. But like, okay, so Connor Stallions is gone. Michigan doesn't have a sign stealer, even though stealing signs is legal. Uh, if Michigan beats Ohio State, if Michigan wins the national title, you think there's still an asterisk for this year, even though the advantage is gone and the only teams they beat this
It
year are garbage teams?
it would be less so of like a tarnish than the last 2 years, but I still like I don't know, like there's still like the part of that there's still that like part that you could think like if he didn't act alone, then maybe he's just the fall guy, like maybe they're still doing it, who knows?
Well, and that's where the full investigation should come into play, right?
Right,
What
right,
if
right. But
what if we find
yeah.
out like for sure, or way more likely than not, it was just him?
Yeah, then yeah, I think it would be less tarnished the rest of the year still, but I still think there's a little bit of a either way, like because like I don't know, their schedule was so easy before this, so yeah, maybe less so this year, but I don't think they'll win the national championship anyway, obviously. But
I will
yeah,
say this. No, sorry, go ahead.
I view the last 2 years like a brand for Michigan, like it's the last 2 years have been the best 2 years of Michigan football in my life, and that's like a brand new white T-shirt and it looks really good, brand new, but now there's just a drop of ketchup on it. That's how I view this whole thing at this point so far.
That's fine. Here's what I would say, like minimal advantage, and this is obviously not unbiased, but like NCAA said that this is a minimal advantage. Michigan has won a lot of games, mostly by a lot of points. Like,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't think that Connor Stallions blew out Ohio State last year. I don't think that Connor Stallions is the reason why 42-27 happened.
But
And
but
so,
that game can play out differently. Like I've said this a lot. Like specifically that play where you see him mouth run right, and then everyone's like calling out stuff, and then the two safeties come up and they stuff the run to the right on 2nd and 9 in the red zone when Ohio State's up 7-3, a chance to go up 14-3. Ultimately, Michigan stopped them and made it so it was 10-3, and it's a different ball game at that point. Like when you're forced to do things that are out of Michigan's comfort zone, like play from behind. Like Michigan hasn't played from behind much at all. They did against TCU and they couldn't creep out of it. They haven't played much from behind other than that at all, like since in the last 3 seasons.
here's what I'll
So
say. I hope that Ryan Day agrees with you, and I hope that Ryan Day thinks not much has to change since Connor Stallions is gone.
no, I do think I like I yeah, I don't well no, I don't think that's not what I'm saying at all. Like I still think Michigan's a really good team regardless. And like I think even if without this sign stealing Connor Stallions thing, they probably win at least 11 games still both years. You know what I mean? Like they still might have beat Ohio State both years. They might have gone 14-0 still, or 13-0 both years still, or whatever. But like it's just still
Yeah,
like tarnished. That's the thing, is you don't know, is my thing. You
I
don't know what would have happened.
that's what. So here, I'll soften it. I hope that Ryan Day thinks that the last two seasons are tarnished with Connor Stallions, thinking we're doing the right thing. They are finished without Connor Stallions. We can keep doing the things that we've been doing against Michigan. That's what I hope. That's
Yeah.
all. All right. We'll move on. Big Ten takeaways. I've got
Wait, can we go?
two.
Wait, going back to that real quick. I
Yeah.
did see today, and I don't know if it's true or not, which I think is awesome if it is true, that Gene Smith and Ryan Day are both like pushing that Harbaugh shouldn't be suspended for the game.
I mean,
Who knows if it's true, but
I hope that that's true. And I read that Fox is kind of advocating for Michigan too because they want more
right.
endings, and so they're
But I think
going
that's
to the Big Ten
ridiculous.
saying, "Come on."
I think Fox is dumb. I think I think the game almost gets more views just because the whole scandal of itself. But also if he came back, then at the same time, yeah, okay. If he came back,
But
it would be like a big deal too.
if Harbaugh is not coaching in the game and Ryan Day wins, it can
Yeah,
easily turn into Ohio State only won because Harbaugh wasn't coaching.
yeah, and it could and if it turns into a blowout either way, people are just gonna turn it off. There's less entertainment there if Harbaugh's not there.
I won't turn it off if when Michigan blows out Ohio State again. But I see what you're saying. Big Ten takeaways. So I've got two. I'll go one, and then you can go one, and then I'll go one again. Iowa is 8-2 overall, 5-2 in the Big Ten. Purdue is 3-7, 2-5 in the Big Ten. They're in last place in the Big Ten West. Iowa's first place in the Big Ten West. 5 teams are in between them in the Big Ten West at 5-5 overall and 3-4 in the conference. The NFL would kill for this kind of parity. That's crazy.
That's awesome. That's wild. My Big Ten takeaway is, so the past two seasons and then this season is what the Big Ten should have been for my whole life, and like kind of what it's kind of been painted as, but it's finally actually here. But like Michigan sucked for the most of it, but as far as Ohio State and Michigan being the two teams and everyone being the rest, the gap should have been there like this my whole life. But it more often hasn't been lately, and I think it's awesome. And I think with the change going into with adding 4 teams to the Big Ten, and with the 12-team playoff and all this drama on top of it, Michigan winning the last two, Ohio State winning a lot before that, and the last two being with this whole scandal, like this one coming up is easily the biggest game of my life, and I think it's sweet.
That's
Ohio State's
crazy.
going to dominate it.
Probably not. But so my other Big Ten takeaway, I'm glad that you talked about that stuff because it honestly transitions well into mine. I'm being 100% serious. Despite being a self-proclaimed traditionalist with college football, college sports overall, who loves rivalry, loves the history behind it all, Big Ten. I wish and I hope that Michigan either goes independent or joins the ACC or SEC or Big 12 or something. The way that this has been and is being handled is still bull. This would never happen in the SEC. This would never happen in the ACC or the Pac-12. This would never even happen in the MAC. The process has been so out of process, and the fact that it stems from another team hiring a private investigator, which so far isn't even being looked into, at least publicly, is stupid. A friend of mine showed me a clip the other day of Call of Duty where this dude is shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting, and he's hitting the dude over and over and over, and then he gets shot one time and dies, despite having full health. When I played Call of Duty, if it was going like that, I'd be like, I'm done. I'd set the controller down. It's just too frustrating. It wasn't always like that. It just got to a point where it was so frustrating I was just shooting this guy over and over and over, and then I get shot once and I'm dead. And that's kind of what it feels like with the Big Ten right now, just like unfair, and it's making me lose interest in general. Like, so I told my family when this was all coming out, I was like, if there's an actual like significant punishment, if they vacate wins or whatever, I'm just done until the NCAA is dead. Like, I don't care. I'll still probably watch. I'll still like be a Michigan fan. But in terms of like, am I going to watch every game? No, because it doesn't matter because the NCAA is bull and they pick and choose who they punish, when they punish, how much they punish, and it is not consistent and it's frustrating. So with this and with how this has played out so far, or it's like a lot of times it's said as like, oh, you lost, so you pick up your ball and went home. But for me, it's like this is just unfair. And so I want Michigan to pick up the ball, walk away to a conference where they protect their own more than they eat their own, or go independent like Notre Dame if they can't find that, because the tradition of the Big Ten is already dead because of extension. So who cares? It's just like, especially the week that Bill Self gets made the highest paid basketball coach of all time with no punishment at all is ridiculous compared to this. All right. One step further take. What do you got?
So mine is I think JJ is Harbaugh's worst coaching job of any of his quarterbacks at Michigan. I think so. There's been a lot of hype coming in when he was a 5-star. There's been a lot of hype the last 2 seasons, like the last 3 seasons even. Like when he's been on the field, there's been a lot of hype, like he's special. But like the dude has not been any more than mid, and it's just been the rest of the quarterbacks that they've had, and he's just not it, in my opinion. And I think that with the hype before, like him being a 5-star and the hype on the field in general, like it's just like I just think that Harbaugh is doing a terrible job.
That's silly. I just pulled it up really quick while you were talking. His passer rating is 187.2.
Cool.
This is pretty good.
It's good passer rating, but I still think he's mid. He hasn't shown anything that is like impressive to me.
It's not his fault. Well,
I'm not saying he's
fault.
bad. Mid is not bad by any means. Mid is mid.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Completing 76% of his passes, 10 yards an attempt, only 3 interceptions on the year. Like
this, and the only team that they have played that was a decent team, he threw the ball 8 times. Like I'm not trying to like go like his stats are good. His stats are very good, but that doesn't mean that he's not mid. Like if Michigan had Cade for these past 9 games, his stats would not be much different from JJ's.
I don't know. Did you see Cade at the start of last year? No, like honestly, I understand what like the spirit of what you're saying, but Cade McNamara looked like dog against crappy teams last year.
But he looked fine the year before. I like the pressure.
He looked like handing the ball.
He knew he lost, dude. If you're Cade, you know you lost the job. The job was already lost, and he knew that.
Well, yeah, because he was bad, and JJ was doing well. JJ was scoring touchdowns, and Cade was throwing picks.
There was just too much push from everyone for them to not start JJ after all the quarterback battle. The only reason they let him even have a chance on the field last season was because they won the Big Ten championship the year before. If they win 10 games and lose to Ohio State, JJ starts week 1 from go.
I mean, maybe. But here's what I'll say. So you've said that JJ has not like come from behind. He hasn't had the game-winning drive, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So like he did lead with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards out. He did lead them from behind against Illinois, who had their play calls, supposedly, according to the Associated Press. Like he got them into field goal range to win the game. He also was the reason why Michigan beat Ohio State 45-23.
What? Wasn't Ohio State up at halftime, but then they just ran a bunch?
He had 3 touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown against Ohio State.
Yeah, but that was in the first half. It wasn't like it was clutch.
It wasn't all, but so that's what like so because he scored early and it was a blowout game, it doesn't count as a good game, even though it was against a good team.
Like it was when he was throwing the ball and scoring touchdowns, the game was close. The game was tight.
So what are you saying then?
I'm saying he didn't do anything. It was like, what do
Except
you mean?
throw for touchdowns to make it not a
Dude,
close game.
the one touchdown, the dude was wide open. That's the DB fell. Like I could have made that throw. What do you mean? He just threw the ball up. And then the other one was he was getting sacked, so he just threw a throw up to the on a curl, and the DB missed the tackle. It's JJ didn't do anything on those plays to impress me at all.
The CJ Stroud throws to Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Stroud or Jackson Smith and Jigba, like all of these 5-star receivers and whatever, and it's CJ Stroud's amazing.
Do you not watch CJ Stroud throw the ball? I'm telling you, nobody in college football was making throws that CJ Stroud was making the last two seasons.
I mean, Caleb Williams was better, right?
No.
Won the Heisman. Here's what I'm saying. Like, I think that you are discounting as much as you can, probably subconsciously, because it's JJ McCarthy. But like, he goes into a big game and the whole game plan is make JJ McCarthy beat us. JJ McCarthy beats you, and it's but the guys were wide open.
He didn't beat Ohio State, is what I'm saying.
Okay. I mean, he accounted for most of the touchdowns in a blowout win in Columbus.
If they don't hit those huge runs with Donovan Edwards, they don't win those games. That win that game.
How is Ohio State going to score? They had 23 points. Like, what do you mean? Michigan was winning when he hit those runs.
Yeah, but Ohio State, it's just a different ball game, dude. So like I don't need to get into it. Like Ohio State was going CJ Stroud threw a pick trying to make a crazy play when they were down big. Like the game goes differently when you're not down by as much. Like,
and the game goes differently when you are up by a lot.
What?
Like JJ McCarthy wasn't in a position to need a game-winning drive against Ohio State, in part because he made those plays earlier in the game.
But what happened? What happened on 4th down against TCU? He should have fumbled the snap. He should have fumbled the snap. Don't bring up because
he didn't fumble the snap. The snap happened before he snapped, like before he hiked the ball.
He still fumbled the snap. He still threw 2 pick sixes.
I'd say that was on the center more than him. And yeah, he did have 2 very costly throws. That doesn't erase the Ohio State game. That doesn't erase the Illinois drive where he went down to win the game with a kick.
He went down. There was a very long field goal from Jake Moody, who was incredible all his entire career. And the play was set up on a pick play that Brett Bielema felt like it should have been PI. So,
but it wasn't PI,
but either way,
he engaged with the receiver, and so it shouldn't have been PI. So it wasn't a PI. Brett Bielema was just a bitch, and JJ McCarthy made the throw.
Either way, the receiver was wide open. Like he didn't do anything incredible. He didn't have to make a play. It's a routine play.
Kyle McCord gets credit for throwing the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr.
Dude, it's
a lot of those balls are not as accurate as CJ Stroud.
Yeah, but that's CJ Stroud, dude.
I understand.
Kyle McCord.
That's Kyle McCord, and that's Marvin Harrison Jr. bailing out Kyle McCord.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
I think if it's a normal receiving room right there, there are way more incompletions.
That's fair at times. But that's also like if Marvin Harrison Jr. is open, why wouldn't you throw it to him? It's the same thing as that play. It's
if Cornelius Johnson's wide open, why don't you throw it to him? Why wouldn't you throw it to him?
But I'm saying you're making it seem like Marvin Harrison, obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a bailout, but that doesn't mean that Kyle McCord doesn't make great throws. It doesn't mean that Kyle McCord makes plays that aren't routine plays, like that Notre Dame throw on 3rd and super long, and they got down to the 1 to win the game.
So
JJ's never made a play like that in his career.
I mean, I disagree.
When? Name one.
I
And
mean,
don't name that routine play against Illinois.
no. The pass against Michigan State, where there's a linebacker right in front of the receiver, there's a safety deep, and the ball goes right past the linebacker's head for a touchdown to Colston Loveland. He has made some incredible throws, but they've been in blowout games because the team is so much better than the teams they're playing. It doesn't mean he hasn't made good throws. He hasn't been in a position where they need him to march down the field to win the game, except in the TCU game where he didn't have the best game. He still made some great throws. He still made some great plays. And the Illinois game where he got them into field goal range. Like, they make the play call
that's the thing is,
for the pick play. Should he have said, no. I need to throw someone open. Don't give me a wide open receiver.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying your example of a non-routine throw that is an incredible play I'm saying that was a bad example for that. I'm not saying he shouldn't throw it to him. I'm not saying he shouldn't make the right play.
How many games has Michigan been in since JJ McCarthy has been the starter where they need a touchdown drive?
One.
I mean, one where they needed a touchdown drive. That's true. And he didn't throw a pick on that drive. The drive ended with a snap before he was ready. So it was a fumble, not his fault, the center's fault. That should have been extended with a targeting that somehow was not.
But also, like, JJ picked up the ball on the ground. The play should have been called dead. It's not like it should have been targeting. The drive should have been extended, but don't try and give that to credit to JJ. Like, don't try and credit that to being like, oh, JJ didn't blow it on that drive.
I'm just trying to say it wasn't his fault. Just like in the Michigan State game his freshman year, the fumble was Blake Corum's fault, not JJ McCarthy's fault.
I don't know what happened the plays before, but if you're an elite quarterback, especially against TCU, you're not getting to the point where it's 4th and 6 anyway.
So if there was a drop,
I don't know if there was a drop or not.
I mean, I honestly don't remember too. But you're saying like
I feel like you would. I feel like you would remember if there was a drop.
I mean, I don't remember a lot of that game. I think probably in part because I was like in shock that it was happening the way it was happening. But you just said an elite quarterback wouldn't be in that position. We have talked before about Caleb Williams, how if I had the number 1 pick, I would not draft him.
No, we're talking specifically on the game-winning drive. That has nothing to do with his defense. That's zero to do with his defense. At that point, he's in a position at that. I'm saying from the game-winning drive attempt, Caleb Williams scores on that drive with Michigan's offense, guaranteed. Against TCU's defense?
This year?
Yes, this year. Any year. It's Caleb Williams. Don't be ridiculous.
Caleb Williams has 4 losses, and Caleb Williams is not as good this year as he was last year.
Oh my goodness, dude.
Like, there can be games with 2 good quarterbacks, and one of them has to lose. There can be games where a quarterback makes a mistake, where a good
here's when it's 2 good quarterbacks and one of them has to lose. A prime example is the AFC Championship with Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, someone has to lose, but like they lost like that. They both still made crazy clutch plays down the line. It's not like Josh Allen lost that game, but if Josh Allen on a game-winning drive after having an incredible game went 3 and out and then failed to convert on 4th down, went 4 and out, like. People would be like, what the heck, Josh Allen?
And if Josh Allen had the ball 4th and 6, and he's looking over here, and the ball hits him in the chest because he didn't snap it, the ball hits the ground, people aren't going, what the hell, Josh Allen? Why'd you fumble the snap?
What are you talking about? I already said that it was the drive. It's the whole drive. It's not the one play. I already said that.
No, but I mean, good quarterbacks don't get in a position where they even need a play. They don't get in 4th down and 6.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's
on a game-winning drive. On a game-winning drive against TCU. We're not talking about against Alabama. We're not talking about against Georgia. We're not talking about against Michigan's defense. We're talking about TCU. Like, do we see how good TCU is this year? It was a fluke. I am being so serious that, like, talent-wise, TCU is not as good as Michigan State. They've gotten one 5-star. They've gotten one
Okay.
5-star in the history of
I'm not
TCU.
talking about
And it's
this
Zach
season.
Evans. And it's
You're
Zach
saying
Evans. And he
last year.
transferred. And he
You're
transferred
saying
to Ole Miss. And he didn't
you're
even play for
saying
TCU that
last
year.
year TCU was not as good as Michigan State.
No, okay. On a consistent basis.
We're not talking about a consistent basis. We're talking about last season. We're talking about one game last season.
That is the equivalent to losing to Michigan State. Is losing to TCU, a mid school. TCU is very mid. They do not bring in talent.
In a historic year. So maybe that's like losing to the Rose Bowl Michigan State team. Sure.
I still don't even. I'm saying it's worse than that. I'm saying it's worse than that because the best Michigan State teams are always going to be better than the best TCU teams. Is what I'm saying.
I mean,
it's worse than losing to Michigan State.
Say that. All I'll say is TCU won enough games to make the playoff that year.
Congrats.
I'm not talking about historical TCU. I'm talking about
tell me how many Big 12 teams won a playoff game ever.
That doesn't even matter.
I'm pretty sure it's actually 0.
How many times did CJ Stroud
before TCU? Huh?
How many times did CJ Stroud beat Michigan? All right, let's
move
on.
Good one.
Let's move on. One. Rapid fire turd pile picks. Rutgers at Penn State. Penn State's favored by 19.5. Penn State.
I got Rutgers. I think the spread is crazy. I think that Penn State's offense is not near good enough to get to that spread, especially with how good Rutgers has been playing. And I think Rutgers gets the upset here on the road.
Dang. Purdue at Northwestern. Northwestern is favored by 1.5. Their coach just got named the full-time head coach. Congratulations. Definitely earned that. Holy crap. I got Northwestern.
Yeah, I got Northwestern as well.
Illinois at Iowa. And today, we're recording this on Wednesday, Cooper DeJean, whatever, is out for the year. He got hurt in practice and he's out for the year. I'm still going to pick Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing to say about the Big Ten West, as soon as you think you have it figured out, you don't. And if Iowa wins this game, they're going to the Big Ten championship game. So I got Illinois here.
All right. You're either going to make up a lot of ground or I'm going to clinch this thing. Nebraska at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's favored by 5. I got Wisconsin.
Yeah, I got Wisconsin too.
I mean, really, this is like pretty bad. Both teams are pretty bad. But
yeah,
I thought Wisconsin was going to go 10-3 or whatever.
Yeah, I thought they were going to win a lot of games too. I don't remember what I picked them to be, but
we both picked them to win, and they're far from that. Out of the varsity games, Michigan favored by 21 at Maryland. Michigan with or without Jim Harbaugh. Minnesota at Ohio State favored by 28. Ohio State.
Yep.
Michigan State. This is a game that I talked about in my Things Nobody is Talking About a few weeks ago. Loser of this game probably has the worst record in the entire Big Ten, not just the East. Michigan State is a 4.5-point underdog in Bloomington against Indiana. I got Indiana.
Yeah, I got real disappointed. My things no one's talking about had to do with Indiana last week, and I was disappointed this week. I think I jinxed them. They lost in overtime. Not definitely bowl bound. I got Indiana here. It's still a 2.
Dang, even though your mom's a Michigan State fan.
Yeah.
Right. Game of the week, number 5, Washington at number 12, Oregon State. I don't think I can believe in an Oregon State team, no matter who they have playing or coaching. With that flawless logic, I'm going to pick Washington by 10.
I'm just not a Washington believer. I think they're a really good team, but I think it takes a great team to go undefeated, and this is a tough matchup, and it's at Oregon State. I got Oregon State by 1. They'll pull it off. They'll pull off the upset, even though they're favored. Really
is gonna. This week is a defining week for our picks standings. Maybe my dream of a 10% lead is still alive. Or you're about to take over and I'm going to be pissed. Things nobody's talking about. I got 2. So I'll go first. Assuming that Michigan and Ohio State both win this week, this will be the first time in the history of the game that they'll play at the end of the year undefeated in consecutive years. That includes the 10-year war. That's crazy.
Wild.
I heard that and I could not believe it.
I'm not so surprised about the 10-year war thing because Bo never won a national championship. So
that's true. Some of those happened when they lost a bowl game, but after they beat Ohio State. What's your thing no one's talking about?
What?
Oh, you're choking just like Ryan Day's gonna. What's your thing no one's talking about?
Okay, so there was a time where MSU fans tried to convince me that there was some kind of rival to Ohio State, like back when Michigan State won the Rose Bowl and they won the Big Ten a few times. They would try to even say that they're consistently more competitive against Ohio State than Michigan. This is now the 7th year in a row that MSU has not been within 20 points of beating Ohio State.
That's crazy. My other one is James Franklin now has a losing record to not just Jim Harbaugh, but also acting head coach Sharon Moore to go along with the late, great Brady Hoke. Brady Hoke didn't die. He just announced the other day that he's retiring from San Diego State. But that's crazy to me. Like, he's only 0-1 against Brady Hoke, but he's 0-1 against Brady Hoke. And now 0-1 against Sharon Moore. And then he has a losing record against Jim Harbaugh as well.
Yeah.
Tweet of the week. What do you got?
So my tweet of the week is from at NFL Rookie Watch. It's not some like official account. It's just like some random account. But what they had to say was pretty cool. So they said Ohio State may officially be rookie university. The Buckeyes might be the best program at producing young NFL talent in all of college football. The 2016 Defensive Rookie of the Year was Joey Bosa. The 2017 Defensive Rookie of the Year was Marshawn Lattimore. The 2019 Defensive Rookie of the Year was Nick Bosa. The 2020 Rookie of the Year Defensive Rookie of the Year was Chase Young. The 2022 Offensive Rookie of the Year was Garrett Wilson. And then the soon-to-be, we assume at this point, miles ahead front-runner to be Offensive Rookie of the Year, C.J. Stroud. And then we assume at least to be in the race, Marvin Harrison Jr., 2024, possible Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's just crazy, the talent. And there's a plethora of other players that are great as well that haven't necessarily been the Rookie of the Year at their position. But
I mean, that explains why they have so many more national titles than Michigan in the last 10 years. My tweet of the week is right before the Ohio State-Michigan State game, or really, since it's from a Michigan State fan, we could just as easily say right after the Michigan game. Daily MSU tweeted, "It's all up to Ohio State now." They really have a one-track mind, and it sure as has nothing to do with their team. They're about to play Ohio State, and they're essentially rooting for Ohio State at that point.
I would do the same thing.
Absurd.
I would do the same thing.
Well, that's what makes you a douche.
Jeez, dude. Why would you not, like, if your season's over, why would you not root against your rival?
Here's the difference. If I'm in that situation, it's been so long since I've been in that situation, but if I'm in that situation, I would hope, like, I hope that Michigan State loses every game. I hope that Ohio State loses every game. Kind of like in football, I kind of hope Michigan Ohio State is like this year, where it all comes down to this, and that's because historically it was like that. But like, if my team sucks, I'm gonna shut up about it, because the easy thing to say is, man, your team sucks real bad, huh? Like,
yeah, I wouldn't necessarily tweet about it or say it to Michigan fans.
That's what I mean.
Hoping, man.
You can hope that Ohio State beats Michigan, which is weird, especially since Ohio State is your second biggest rival now. But like, just to talk about it openly like that right before you play that team is one of the most little brother things they could have tweeted. You know what I mean?
I guess.
I don't know. Maybe just shut your mouth, MSU, from time to time, instead of outing yourself as the littlest brother.
I like how you said littlest brother, because you know that Michigan is still the little brother to Ohio State.
Yeah, I never said that.
That is
Maybe,
why you said it, though.
maybe now that Counter Stallions got found out. uh, with that, we'll see you next week. Until then, go blue.
Go Buckeyes.
The Big Ten.
Bet.
Bet.